If you heard footsteps in your attic, would you call for help or convince yourself it was nothing?
A 3-year-old is lost in the woods at Mount Shasta. His story confounds and shocks his rescuers.
Welcome
to our first ever Your Next Halloween special.
All right, Sergio, we've both brought something special tonight. I have no idea what you picked. You don't know mine. So shall we see whose story haunts us first?
Absolutely. Okay, first of all, what are you doing for Halloween? Are you doing anything special today?
Not a fucking thing. So Christian, my husband, has to work. He couldn't drop that trip or end that day early. So totally fine. I am not against just staying home, binge eating the candy corn, watching all the the movies on loop, and just staying inside with the dog. Unfortunately, we don't get trick-or-treaters here. We are right by a subdivision, so it's our apartment buildings and then houses for blocks. Yeah. But none of the kids go out and do anything. I also can't sit on the corner of my apartment building and hand out candy. That'd be fucking weird. So I'm not doing anything. Are you?
Yeah, no, I'm same thing. I don't really want to go out. I might go out trick-or-treating with my niece because she's 9 and it's still really exciting for her. But other than that, yeah, keeping my 31 Days of Halloween horror movies going.
Do you consider Harry Potter a Halloween or a Christmas movie?
If anything, Halloween or Christmas movie. Definitely not Halloween.
Why? That's so interesting.
It's just not scary. I don't think you should attribute to witches as Halloween. I don't think that fits. It should be.
But then what about Hocus Pocus?
See, but Hocus Pocus is still scary. Those witches still wanted to do bad things.
Is it?
I think the witches are trying to do bad things versus Harry Potter. He's just at school. It's just high school.
But then it's Wizard High School. You have the Dementors. You have Snape.
You're talking about
Lucius.
7 years worth of material. That's not the same. You can't say that
it's easily
Harry
bingeable.
Potter season 1, let's say Philosopher's Stone, is not the same as Harry Potter season 6.
Totally.
It's totally different feel. I feel all the beginning Harry Potter's just very much hey, we're going to school, we're learning something new, crazy shit happen, versus once it gets to the later seasons, it's just dark all the way through.
It's chaos. Yeah.
It's so dark. It's very adult. It's very oh shit, our government got taken over by Nazis and we're trying to fight back.
See, that's why I think it's I think it's appropriate for Halloween. I think Halloween and Christmas. I don't know.
Okay. No, I see what you're saying. Wait, hold on. Who are you?
Hi. I'm Emilio.
Hello, Emilio.
Who are you? Why are we so bad at that?
I don't know why we keep forgetting to introduce ourselves. Hello, I am Sergio Garcia. I'm the new co-host for your next podcast.
You know what I think it is? I think it's once we get into the studio, the virtual studio, we just start rambling. We catch up on everything that we haven't caught up on through text. And then when we hit record, we forget that.
Exactly. It doesn't feel very separate.
And we're at least to me, I forget that we're not the only people here.
That's it. We forget that we're not the only people listening to this.
Yeah.
Anyways, so it's Halloween, it's spooky season. We got some creepy, scary stories to tell you. Not exactly true crime, but not fiction. So it's what do you believe?
Well, mine is true crime. Mine is just unsolved. And Ooh. I told you this off the mic. I tried so hard and I bounced around so many cases that I wanted to do that weren't a murder. But I kept getting pulled to the one that I'm gonna do today, okay. And the one I was really, really leaning towards was the Dubbock box.
Ooh,
do you know about that?
I mean, I know what a Dubbock box is, but I don't know if there's a specific case attached to it. Did you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I want to rock paper scissors for it, just for the fuck of it. Ready? Rock paper scissors shoot.
Damn. Okay, so what did you pick?
You go first.
So, like I said, mine is not a true crime story per se. This is more of a urban legend kind of thing. So this is a story called The Other Grandma.
Oh.
Yeah, The Other Grandma. So this takes place on Mount Shasta, which is in Siskiyou County in Northern California. It's a potentially active volcano in the Cascade Mountains range. So it's that enormous mountain range in Northern California that like includes Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier. Anything in Northern California, like it goes into Oregon and Seattle. And the area is surrounded by what's called the Shasta Trinity Forest. So the date's kind of debated a little bit, but it's generally agreed fall, September 1st of 2010. So it's like it's that kind of early.
Okay, so this is recent.
Yeah, so no, it's not that far back, which is why I find very fascinating. But Mount Shasta, like I want to take a step back and talk about Mount Shasta. So Mount Shasta, it's this mountain range in Northern California, but there is so much attached to Mount Shasta. Like literally every conspiracy theory, every like supernatural thing is attached to it. Mount Shasta has been known to have interdimensional beings, ghosts, UFOs, Sasquatch. They think like Bigfoots live here. And then there's a little bit like deeper history that I'm going to talk about later.
Fuck, this place has a lot going on.
No, it has so much going on, but I feel like this is very common for areas like this where it's like mountainous and people have been going to forever.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible, yeah. But Mount Shasta, being a mountain, also had strong connections to the Native American lore of the time. So like the Native American nations that lived in these areas. So they were called the Shasta, the Wintu, the Achumami, the Atsugawi, and the Mandoc. So they believed that Mount Shasta was the resting place of their creator. This is the resting place of where their bones were. So the lore is Mount Shasta inhabited the spirit of the heavens, if that makes sense. Okay. So like the spirit of the above world, and they descended from heaven to fight the spirit of the below world, which they call Lao, and they resided in Mount Mazama. And this is very much like an allegory trying to explain volcanoes, because they were talking about, this god up above was causing this thing, and their fight was the volcano erupting, and the evil ones were like the ones below the volcano. So that's kind of the Native American lore. But there were also other stories throughout Mount Shasta, including things about UFOs, supernatural beings, interdimensional beings. There was a story about the Native Americans. They call it the Matagagmi, which meant Bigfoot. So they also believed Bigfoot was in this area. But they thought it was like a keeper of the woods. That's who Bigfoot was. They were protecting the woods. So like Mount Shasta has had and still has all of those flavors of like interdimensional beings, paranormal beings, sci-fi beings. They have seen so many UFO sightings, lights in the skies, Sasquatches, parallel dimensions. In ancient times, the people of that area believed that it was the home of giant glowing beings. So they thought there were giant glowing beings that kind of lived inside the mountain. And this was another very fascinating thing about Mount Shasta, is that there is this local lore and like urban legend kind of lore that the mountain is home to the lizard people.
Oh no, not the lizard people.
Yeah, no. So have you ever heard this theory? So it at first it started that it was home to these ancient beings, which is like um very similar to Atlantis. Like this is the home of the Atlantis continent that got sunk underneath, and this is kind of where they ended up.
Mm-hmm.
They called it Lemuria. So they thought it was the home of Lemuria, the home of the Lemurians, a city called Telos, which means the city of light. They thought that this was the city of an ancient civilization that lived inside of Mount Shasta. You know, the local legends described the Mount Shasta beings wandering the hillsides. They were always described as these like tall 7-foot figures with long blonde hair and like white robes to be just kind of wandering the countryside.
That sounds horrifying. Anything to do with giants scares the fuck out of me.
Very horrifying. No, but like I want to take like the anthropologist view of this. Like if you take a step back, it's like they believe that this was Atlantis. Yeah. So like anthropological, it's like, oh, they thought this was a lost continent. They thought this was civilization that was lost to humanity. Which I love. So that's what they thought. They thought that, and then later on it became the lizard people. So they thought the lizard people lived in this, in Mount Shasta, that Mount Shasta had underground tunnels and the cities and everything, and they controlled the world. Let me reel it in to our story today. But the story today that I want to tell you about is called The Other Grandma. The date is debated a little bit, but mostly agreed. September 1st, 2010, so it's not that far back, 2010, a family of 5 went down to the usually camping ground on Mount Shasta. It's called Fowler Campground. It's a beautiful area. It's near the Mount Cloud River and the waterfalls, and they were just having a weekend of it. And the son, he was a 3-year-old little boy, and I'm going to call him Tommy for the sake of our recording. They never reveal his name because it's, you know, a minor and we don't want all that. I'm going to call him Tommy. He was playing with his sister and their dog. Beautiful, like golden retriever dog. And then around 6 p.m., the sister says she looked away for a few seconds and then she looked back and her brother and the dog were just gone. Just disappeared completely. The family immediately went into searching mode, but there was no trace. They called the authorities, and within an hour, they had an enormous search party group. There was sorry, I'm going to pronounce this right, Siskiyou County Sheriff Department. So that's the county that particular campground was in. Local firefighters, canine units, search and rescue people, and just many paid and unpaid volunteers just jumped in within the hour to try and help find this kid. They scoured the area, and like the area that they were in was really tough terrain besides the campgrounds. It was very like steep. There was a lot of slopes. There was dense forest. And then they had the roar of the McCloud River right nearby. And that's the river that kind of cuts through the Cascade Mountains. So just loud roaring water. And they also had the falls. So they started immediately searching. There was no trace. And then they got the canines out there. And the canines picked up a scent. And this was like about 5 hours after the disappearance. And they ended up finding the dog, the toddler's dog, by itself.
Good.
Yeah. So they ended up finding him by himself. He was wet. He was disoriented. Didn't know what was going on. So the rescuers, of course, feared the worst. They thought like, oh, this child has now fallen into the river, has been swept down river, and is dead. So that's kind of where they were going off of. And it took about 5 or 6 hours. Around 12:30 a.m., they found Tommy, little missing boy, 3-year-old boy. They found him crouched behind a bush in an area that the rescuers like swear up and down, we've already checked this area. Tommy's clothes were dirty. He had a few scratches all over his body, but he was generally unharmed. And then weirdest of all, he wasn't crying. He was just quiet. He was disconnected. The rescuers chalked it up to shock. They thought like, oh, he's in shock.
Mm-hmm.
He's 3 years old. So they ended up, bringing Tommy back home, giving him to his family. They went back home. And then he didn't tell them anything about what had happened, but a few days later, the story slowly started coming out. A few days later, he was being babysat by his grandmother, whose name is Kathy, but Tommy called her Grandma Caddy because he's a 3-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tommy turned to Grandma Kathy and he's like, I don't like the other Caddy. And the story started to slowly unravel. They asked him, hey, what do you mean by that? And he said that when he was lost in the forest, he went with the other grandma. He said she looked like grandma, but it wasn't grandma. And according to Tommy, after he had wandered off, he met a woman who looked exactly like his grandma, the same face, the same voice, but something about her was off. Her movements were stiff, as if she didn't know how to use her limbs. Her inflection was cold, and her eyes didn't blink the right way.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's very creepy. He said that she smiled too much, but there was no warmth in that smile, and that her face was shiny like a robot. Tommy called her a robot, but people thought it was like the only way that he can like reference or describe what he saw, that the face was shiny.
Yeah.
He called it a robot. So the other grandma took his hand and led him deeper into the woods. They reached an opening in the ground. Tommy called it a cave, but what he described was something a little bit different. The entrance was a narrow, rectangular, metallic, and very, very dark corridor. And he said that there were spiders all over the walls that were watching him. And then in the larger chamber, he described seeing piles of things like guns, quote, guns and purses and watches. Some look dirty and old, some look shiny and new. So like he was seeing a pile of stuff that was left behind.
Uh-huh.
And then even more chilling, he said that there were other robots with shiny faces inside the cave, but they were sitting on the floor and they were off. Is what he said. Off and not moving. So he just saw these like humanoid figures kind of sitting in the corner who weren't moving. So this detail bothers me the most because it's like, one, a kid can make this up. This is a crazy story in his head, but like this detail bothers me. He said that the other grandma made him lie down on the ground and she put her hand to his stomach. And Tommy said it didn't hurt, but it felt funny, like she was listening or scanning his body. And then at one point,
oh my God,
the other grandma whispers, "You don't belong here. You came from the stars. They put you in your mommy's tummy." Like,
what 3-year-old would know to
exactly? What 3-year-old would make that shit up? So that's what's insane. But it's like, that's what the other grandma told him, which is insane. Then even a weirder detail. Okay, so this is another detail that I was like, this doesn't sound like something a 3-year-old would make up to try and like understand the trauma. He said the other grandma brought out sticky paper. I'm doing quote signs if you can't see this. Sticky paper on the floor and told them to poop on it. The other, like, she wanted a stool sample from this child on this paper on the floor. And the other grandma got mad when he said that he couldn't do it, and she started yelling at him in another language that he didn't understand. Eventually, she took him back to the entrance of this cave, told him to go down the river and hide behind a bush until someone found him. And that's exactly what he did. And that's exactly what happened. These like rescuers found him hiding behind a bush, just waiting. So this entire story, like he was kind of revealing it slowly over the days after he was found. The family was very unsettled, as you can imagine. But you know, most of the family, and I think like even us would think like, oh, this is just a story that a 3-year-old came up with to explain this trauma, explain this like weird ass horrible situation that they were in. However, Grandma Kathy, the real grandma, she had a story of her own. She went to the parents and described a story that, like, almost exactly a year ago, she was camping on Mount Shasta with one of her friends. And she said that after it was dark and night, they kept seeing red eyes in the forest.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope, I'm out.
They kept seeing...
Let me turn the lights on. I'm out.
Yeah, like, they kept seeing red eyes shining in the forest. She said they didn't blink or move like anything she's ever seen before. And whenever they tried to shine the flashlight at it, they would disappear. Which is like, fuck that. I'm heading down this mountain.
Yeah.
But they did it.
Hell yeah.
They're like, you know what? It's probably just animals. And they decided to go to sleep. But Grandma Kathy woke up hours later in the middle of the night, outside of her tent, face down on the ground, middle of nowhere. And she said she felt dizzy and she felt weak, like all of her energy was gone. And then she brought her hand up to the back of her neck because she felt a little pain there. And she found 2 puncture wounds on the back of her neck. And then she returned back to her camp and she found her friend who also had the same exact symptoms, feeling weak, feeling dizzy, and 2 puncture wounds on the back of their head. So that's what Grandma like related to everybody, which is insane. Combined with this story
that is
the kid
terrifying.
It's terrifying. I mean, like, that's the story of the other grandma, and people have run crazy with it. It's like, is it aliens? Is it a mimic, which is like a supernatural being? Ancient interdimensional being that was like doing all this to everybody.
Wait, you can't tell me that's it. Is that the end of it?
That really is the end of it, because
fuck,
nothing could be proved. Yes, nothing could be proved, because like Mount Shasta has this incredible history of unbelievable and weird shit happening to it, but nothing was decided. And then, you know, like, this is one of those stories too where it's like, is it real? Is it just like an urban legend? I tried to dig, and I did find one article from the Mount Shasta News. So it's the local news in that area. It was an article dated September 7th, 2011. It was about a 3-year-old boy who had disappeared with his dog in the woods. A massive search effort had started right away. They found the dog first, and then the kid later hiding behind a bush. So, like, if this article's real, and according to that, like, this is exactly the kid that they found, but the kid had a whole different story of the other grandma.
But wait, so were they reporting on the 2010 story or another happening that happened, or another instance from 2011?
The way that I understand it, this was the same story. So I was trying to find some proof that like this happened. And there is a news article saying that a 3-year-old boy with his dog disappeared, and he was found later. But that's the story of the other grandma, of like, that's what the toddler said. He said, hey, I saw this and that. I don't know. So there's like a weird, could be true, could be not true, because there's a real news article saying like, hey, a 3-year-old boy was lost in exactly the same way that this boy said he was lost. But it's so weird and so scary, because the kid just like described, he kept calling them robots, which is one thing, but I'm like, that's how a child's brain could understand this the best. He said their faces were shiny and that they weren't moving much. But then the whole grandma story of like, someone took a sample from the back of my head and made this happen. It was very bizarre, because it's one thing for the kid to say it, but then the grandma was like, I didn't tell you guys this, but somebody took a chunk off my neck.
Wow. That was fascinating. I think there's a lot there.
No, I'm like, you can Google Mount Shasta and literally get hundreds of stories.
None of that is what I expected when I heard the other grandma.
Good.
I'm glad it went where it went, but that was good.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm like, I thought it was so creepy.
Now, so the question is, would you go stay at Mount Shasta?
I would, to find out if it was real. I feel like that's my answer for a lot of these things. It was like, oh, would you stay in this haunted house? I'm like, I would stay just to find out if like I'll experience the same things.
Would you stay all night?
See, so like,
or would you like leave after a while?
Like, I don't want to sound flippant about it, because I feel like when people say it's like, oh, I just want to, like, I don't believe it's real and blah blah. I want to experience it, and if it is real, I want to experience that. So it's in that case, I was like, I wouldn't immediately leave. I want to like explore it, but if it is real, I'm getting the fuck out. That makes sense.
My turn. Okay, this is the story of the Hinterkaifeck murders. Just by that alone, does it ring any bells?
No.
No? Okay. So, this is a true crime so eerie, so inexplicably intimate, it inspired decades of horror stories, but this one actually happened. Picture Germany in 1922. The country's still reeling from World War I. Money's basically worthless. People are struggling to survive, and small villages are isolated and suspicious of everyone. It's cold, rural, intense, the kind of place where bad things could happen and no one would know for days. Now, in this case, it's late March, that kind of like in-between season where winter hasn't quite let go, but it's still lingering. The air is still cold, the ground's soft and muddy, and the Hinterkaifeck farm sits quiet and cut off from the world. It's a small homestead surrounded by thick woods and farmland about 43 miles north of Munich. There are no streetlights, no close neighbors, and from the outside, it just looks ordinary. But what happened inside would become one of Germany's most chilling and unsolved murders. Living there is the Gruber-Gabriel family. There's Andreas, who is known for being gruff, controlling, and unfriendly. There's Cecilia. They're the mom and dad in this. They are an older couple. Also living there is their widowed daughter, Victoria Gabrielle, and Victoria's two children, Cecilia Jr. and Josef, along with their maid, Maria. They keep to themselves. People in town call them odd, which we'll get into a little bit later. But in March of that year, things just start to feel wrong. Andreas tells a neighbor that he's been hearing footsteps in the attic. Not mice, not creaks, footsteps. He searches the house, finds absolutely nothing. A few days later, he finds a newspaper from Munich on his kitchen table, but no one in the family has subscribed to it. So it's a complete mystery. The keys to the house have gone missing, and their first maid suddenly quits, saying that she feels that the house is haunted. 6 months later, the Grubers hire a new maid, Maria. Her first day on the job is March 31st, 1922, and it would also be her last. A few days later, neighbors start to notice something strange. The smoke from the Grubers' chimney keeps rising, but no one has seen the family. The little girl hasn't been to school, mail piles up, cows are moving constantly like they haven't been milked. So one neighbor decides to go check. He walks to the farm, pushes open the barn door, and freezes. Inside the barn are 4 bodies stacked in a crude pile beneath hay. Andreas, Cecilia Sr., Victoria, and little Cecilia Jr. are all brutally murdered with a mattock, which is basically like a pickaxe. Inside the house, they find 2 more, which is baby Josef and the new maid, Maria. So the horror is bad enough, but what investigators discover next is even worse. What they learned, or what they pieced together, is that the killer stayed in the house for days after. They ate the family's food, they used the fireplace, they milked the cows, fed the animals, and they slept there in the same house where 6 bodies were cooling behind a barn wall.
That's fucking rough. Like, he was just sitting there forever.
Just basking.
Well, I don't know if like basking is correct, but yeah, it was days ago.
So when police finally arrived, they realized how isolated the farm truly is. Whoever did this had time on their hands, and it wasn't random. There was no sign of robbery. Money, jewelry, valuables were all left untouched. So immediately they start to think this feels personal. Now here's where things get even stranger. We're going to get into our theories. Theory 1 is that it was either a vagrant or a drifter. So someone was hiding in the attic, living out the family without their knowledge. It would explain the noises, the missing keys, the phantom newspaper, and it fits the timeline also. The family was uneasy days before it happened. But if it was just a drifter, why stay after the murders? Why feed the animals, and why make it a home? Like, it completely goes against like what a lot of being a drifter is. Theory 2 is that it was a family member. Now, Victoria, their daughter, she had a complicated past. Rumors said that she had been in an incestuous relationship with her father, Andreas. And that her youngest child, Josef, might have been his. So Victoria's late husband had supposedly died in the war, but there were whispers that he might still be alive. So if he came back, found out about this incestuous child and wanted revenge, then that theory fits. But there's absolutely nothing concrete that ties him to the scene. The third theory is the neighbor. Oh God, I'm gonna fuck this up. Lorenz Schlittenbauer. Actually, that did pretty well on that.
Sure.
He was very friendly with Victoria. He was the one who found the bodies, and when police questioned him, his behavior was just off. He opened locked doors in the house without keys. He touched evidence, and he just acted way too calm for like what the hell was going on. Some said he had motive, could have been jealousy, betrayal, or obsession. Others said he was just traumatized, which I don't know if I so much believe the traumatized angle, but who knows?
It's like a stretch.
And then there's the last theory, the supernatural one, of course, Happy Halloween. Locals claim that the farm was cursed, that the ghost of the murdered family haunts the land, whispering from the fields, that you can still hear footsteps if you visit at night. Each investigator back then also admitted that something about the house felt off. Animals would not go near it, tools were rusting faster than usual, and it was just like the air itself there just rejected what happened. Now, despite over 100 suspects, confessions, and leads, no one was ever charged. The murder weapon, the mattock, it was found hidden in the attic, along with signs that someone had been sleeping there long before the killings. In 1923, the farmhouse was demolished because there was no buyer or inhabitant willing to take on the property, especially one associated with such atrocity. A small shrine stands where it once was, but the case has never been solved. And to this day, no one knows who the someone in the attic really was. But here's what's most chilling. Andreas Gruber says that he heard him. He felt something wasn't right. He told his neighbors, and he stayed anyway. Maybe because he didn't believe what his mind was telling him, which is something like we've touched on in your case. Maybe because it was easier to explain away fear than face it, or maybe because none of us ever really believe that the monster is already inside the house. The Hinterkaifeck murders have obsessed people for over a century, spawning theories, documentaries, and even an opera. Composer Michael J. Vince turned the case into a full-stage production that premiered at the University of Arizona in 2024, which honestly makes sense. Like, this story has all the elements of a tragedy that never stopped echoing. And that's all I got. That's the story of the Hinterkaifeck murders, which was 6 lives taken on a quiet farm, one killer who vanished into the night, and a century-old question, which was who the fuck was living in the attic.
Who the fuck? Yeah. No, that's terrifying.
There's a lot going on in both stories, and not having a definitive answer is unsettling.
It's very unsettling. Yeah.
It goes against like everything we want as true crime.
Exactly. No, like,
evangelists.
This is a very special episode because I hate when I'm reporting. Like, I want to give you a real answer, but there is no real answer.
Well, happy spooky season, everyone. We've finally made it. Happy Halloween. If you're going out and about, be safe. Or if you're at home binging and taking edibles, drinking, doing whatever it is you do, be safe there also. Well, that is our first ever Halloween special bonus episode. I can't wait to do another one next year, and hopefully they just get spookier and spookier, or maybe we can do a live one next year. Do you want to tease what the next episode is?
Ooh. Okay, so the next episode after this is... Look, I feel like we're going to be screaming righteously the entire time. The next episode is a murder of two very young women by someone who shares views that we don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a very blank way to say that.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to call him an incel. Like, I think he's an incel. He very much believes in very specific things, and he killed these poor young women because he thought he was right, because he thought they were, I don't know, insulting something that they believed was good.
Mm-hmm. So that goes to say it is going to be a politically charged episode.
Very, yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. No, like as always, we try to be a little objective. We're going to report the facts, but I mean, you know what you're here for. Like, we're going to tell you exactly how we feel.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Please follow us on Instagram at Your Next Pod. Please on Apple or Spotify, even though I'm very anti-Spotify right now. That's going on.
But what kind of choice do we have?
Well, that's all. We will catch y'all next Tuesday.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. And you got to say it. You have to say our sign off. It's your thing.
Oh, well, be careful out there, or you're next.
Dun dun dun. Hopefully not, because we want to talk to you next week.
If you are next, just like send us the details so we can make a whole episode out of
it. Yes, please. Make us your next of kin. All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.